Hey Facebook, it's Dr. Rick, and this Herbal 411 highlights is how to start your exercise routine again. So Ben is getting back into exercise. He's got some basic equipment back at home, but it's a little limited as far as assortments of weights. Dumbbells are really easy to use. Barbells, I think, will be able to give you more stress response to build muscle and get healthy. But the problem is you need a lot of weight, and most of us don't have all those plates to use. So I default to high repetition, low weights. I think basically when you do high reps, low weights, it turns into a cardiovascular fitness exercise. You certainly get tone. In fact, I was talking to Coach Tony here at the Endorphin Effect Training Center, and we reminisced about how we would pump up right before going on stage. You don't really need big weights, you just need high repetition for the specific body part that you're trying to work on or to show on stage. Now, the basic premise of high weight, low repetition is to build muscle, explosive power, and hopefully grow muscle protein synthesis. The basic premise for low weight, high repetition is more endurance. Both of them are excellent, but it depends on your goals, your resources, and what your coach puts together for you. My basic premise is to introduce you to something or design something for you that will be sustainable. I was bitten by the exercise bug back in 1982. And I loved it and continued with it since then. I've had my years when I kind of faded away, but for the most part, it's carried me now to hopefully 60 and 70, and I think I'll be better off than the average person that's trying to start this up now. It's never too late, but it does take a little bit more planning when you're older. Unfortunately, age brings on disease, and even if you don't feel bad, you might have some hidden things that are coming along that have to be accounted for when you're designing an exercise routine. Or if you're working with macronutrients, you're cutting down on your calories, you're trying to pulse, fast, push paleo, whatever it is. If you're older, if you have medical problems, please seek help. Don't do this on your own. In Ben's case, he is back to working. He has a little bit of weight from COVID, but he's chopped down some of that weight gain, and now we're getting back into exercise. So all I want him to do is not necessarily go out to a gym, but use the resources you have at home and take advantage of them. If he's used to heavy weight and all he has is light weight at home, we can at least prep him for when he goes into the gym. So what I wanted to do with Ben is introduce him to 4 basic movements, and you don't have to have a lot of equipment. These are 15-pound dumbbells, and if you watch my video in the past, I'll put a link to it down below. You can actually do this without weights. You can do this with gallons of water. This is 15. Now, this is easy to handle. A gallon of water is a little bit hard to maneuver, especially if the cap falls off. We can easily start with 4 basic movements, 1 for the shoulders, 1 for the pecs, 1 for the back, and 1 for the core. Ben has an issue with his legs, so we'll worry about that later. So since we're limited on weight, I'd say we just stick with what we have, but we do high repetition. So we're gonna break it down into 3 sets, and we're not gonna take a break. The first set will be overhead press. So you start with the weights right at your shoulder level, and you go straight overhead, and you lower down again. Go straight overhead, lower down again. You have to try to keep your scapula or shoulder blade flat to the back, and try not to elevate your shoulders up. If you do that, you're going to run the risk of impingement. So relax the shoulders, just go overhead, nice easy movement. If you do have some problems with the shoulder, you can actually turn them sideways, and it might be a little bit easier on the rotator cuff. But bottom line is you want to do about 25 of these. So you just crank out 25, and this is easy, but if you exhaust your muscle, you will force a little bit of lactic acid buildup, and then eventually it will be stressed. It won't be stressed to the point of building big muscle, but it'll be attuned to doing a little bit of work. Now you go straight into bench press. You pretend that this is a bench, or you can probably use 2 chairs, but you lie back, support, low back stays flat to the bench. Start like this. We're gonna do flies. So flies are when you go almost parallel to where your body part is, your chest, and you come back up. So you pretend you're hugging a tree, and you just keep on doing it for, again, 25 repetitions. If that's too much because you have a shoulder problem, you can actually turn it this way and pretend you're doing a bench. So when you're doing bench, you bring it down to where the nipple is, and you bring it back up. Full extension, down, up. So you do about 25 of these. Your bench will be stronger than your shoulder press, so you'll be able to kick these out really well. I just picked 25 as an arbitrary number, so we have an endpoint. Next is, if you don't have a chin-up bar, and I really think you can find chin-up bars in most Goodwills. I found like 3 already and bought them for like $4 each. If you don't have a chin-up bar, you can do 1-arm rows. You're gonna keep your back parallel to the ground, and then you let the arm dangle, and you pull it straight up. Keep your back flat, just like you're doing a long pulley row. That way you're building more of the rhomboid, but you can get a little bit of work to the latissimus dorsi, the lats. One thing, if you're working on high repetition and low weight, as you get towards the upper numbers of your set, you can actually do it slower. Do it to the rhythm of your breath. It's almost going to be like an isometric contraction. Isometric is when you hold something and you just keep it. And that alone, the sustained tension, will cause lactic acid buildup and stress the muscle. When you stress the muscle, you'll give it time to rebuild. It'll be stronger than before. Not necessarily bigger, stronger. So you can hold it at 50% and 100% of the full movement. You won't really get anything when you're doing this, but 50%, 100% of the full movement. So you do 25 of those. Now we've done shoulders, pecs, lats. Next and final would be core. So this one's easy, unless you have a back problem. So once you lie back, what I like to do with this is have the low back curve flattened to the surface, extend the legs, making sure that the low back always stays flat, and you drop down and you build up. Drop down, build up. If you want to play around with it, up, spread, together, down, up, spread, together, down. So core will be a little bit weaker than any other body part. And you do 25 of those, and then you immediately go back into overhead press. So some people would say that they have to take a break. I honestly, for doing high repetition, and we're going to be going for cardio and just neuromuscular facilitation, or getting the muscles used to moving again, getting your breath used to coordinating with movement, I would go straight into it. I wouldn't even take a break. If you do 25 repetitions for the first set, after you're done with the 4, you go straight into the second set, no break. Maybe you do 20 repetitions, no break. Go straight into the third set, 15 repetitions, maybe the last set, fourth set, 10 repetitions. I just gave you an estimate of 3. If you're taking your time, 3 sets and 25, 20, 15, probably take you about 7 to 15 minutes. Take your time with it. It'll be an introduction. You'll probably be able to blow right through them, but if you get gassed, to get short of breath, that perceived exertion, you win. Now you keep on doing that till you're kind of fit and you can zoom right through them. Then you might need a challenge to either seek out a gym, go with more body weight exercises that are a little more challenging. That concept of muscle confusion, I think, does work. So if this is Wednesday, I expect by Thursday, I'll be hurting. By Friday, I'll be ready to hit it again. If you're still in pain on Friday, especially if you're fibromyalgia or chronic pain syndrome, you might have to wait until you're close to 80% better and then hit your muscles again. That's why it's really important to have somebody eyeball and be coaching you as far as how to utilize your membership at the gym or the weight you have at home properly. If we just stick with this at home, I think it will be very boring. I just talked to one of my clients today, and we were trying to think about how do we get exercise routines at home, especially like a vibration plate for osteoporosis. You imagine just doing that for 2 years, 5 to 10 minutes a day. I mean, it can get kind of boring. And if people are bored, they don't continue. For me, the best exercise is that which you can sustain. The best diet is that which you'll follow. Now, Ben has a lot of talent, has a lot of muscle memory from before, so we'll probably blow through these real fast. But this is an entry-level thing. I think it's important for you to start with something with the resources that you have. Now, full disclosure, when I was a kid, the only thing we had at home was my dad, Joe Atlas springs that you did this with somehow. I think he did other things. I never used it except for this. And then when I was getting older, my hairs on my chest used to get caught in the springs. What I would do with the resources I had, I would rubber band tape my Encyclopedia Britannicas together. I'd always pick the R's and the S's because those are the thickest volumes. And I just used that for my biceps, that for overhead press. And that was good enough till I learned to use iron. This is why it's important to have a coach, especially if you had somebody that's been doing it for decades. They'll probably have a client that they work with that was very hard to make things for. And that's where the creative process comes in handy. Just with the experience and the accumulated knowledge that we all share in this training center, I think we have a wide variety of different ways to problem solve and get people past the plateau. So for my patients and clients, I appreciate you taking the time to invest in your health. I will give you back everything to make you successful and become a warrior. Don't be embarrassed if you're starting from scratch and you don't know what to do. It's okay to start over again, or it's okay to just start from scratch. It's not okay to become a prisoner to your disease process, say I give up, and just eat the medicines that are coming your way. Don't forget to head over to my YouTube channel and subscribe and like and share this if you know anybody else that's on the fence with regards to starting an exercise program. This is Dr. Rick. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy, and I'll see you at the training center.